when we actually get there. So let's just go ahead and get started with the install. So the first thing we're going to do is just Google Ubuntu server. And then if we head to their download, we can accept all and visit. And then once at their website, you can look for this manual server installation. And we want to download the Ubuntu server 20.04.4 LTS or long-term support version. While that's downloading, we can also Google Rufus and then go to this website and download this as well. Okay, now that we have these downloaded, we can go into our downloads folder and open up Rufus. And Rufus is going to be used to flash our Ubuntu image here onto a flash drive so that we can use that to install Ubuntu server on our machine. Before we can do that though, I need to plug a device in. So I'll just plug a flash drive into my computer. And then after that, it should show up here under device. Okay, great. So now I have my flash drive here. And then under boot selection, we want disk or ISO image, and then we can hit select. And then if we head to our downloads folder, we should be able to find our Ubuntu server image here. We can select that. And then the rest of the settings here can just be left as default, and we can hit start, hit OK here, hit yes, because this will delete everything off this flash drive, but we're okay with that. And then we'll let this run for a few minutes until it's finished. Alright, now that it's done, we can eject that flash drive, and we'll unplug it from our Windows machine, and plug it into our soon-to-be Minecraft server. With our flash drive plugged in, we can go ahead and turn on our server. If you don't already have an operating system installed, it should go ahead and boot into the Ubuntu server installer. If not though, you might have to spam a specific hotkey when you first boot up your system to get to the boot menu. For me, this was escape. Once in the boot menu, you can scroll down until you find your flash drive and then hit enter. After a few minutes of text readouts on the screen, you should land on this page here. So I'm going to select my language English, and I have a US keyboard, so I can just hit enter for done. And then this page is where we're going to set up our network. We're going to leave everything as DHCP like it is, and you're going to want to go ahead and write down the IP address that's listed where it says DHCP v4. For me, this is 192.168.1.138. So write that down somewhere so you don't forget. But from here, we should just be able to click done. Under proxy address, we'll skip that. We'll hit done. For mirror address, we'll do the same thing. We'll just skip. And then here's where we can configure the storage for our server. And I'm just going to use the entire hard drive that we have, so I can leave it on this use an entire disk setting. But I am going to go down to where it says set up this disk as an LVM group, and I'm going to deselect this. That's because I had a few issues when trying to install this with an LVM group. If it works for you, great. If not, maybe try deselecting this option. But then we can scroll down to where it says done, hit enter again, and this is just a summary of our install, so we should be able to hit done. And then we have a warning here to make sure we know we're going to delete everything on our drive, and we want to do that, so we're going to hit continue. Here, we're going to set up our user account, so I'm going to type in my name, Haven. And my server's name, I'm just going to call this Compact MC. And then username is going to be Haven. And then for password, pick a secure password. I'm just going to use a very simple one for this tutorial, but pick a better password than that. And then now we can hit enter for done. We can hit enter again to skip and it's broken. Now here we want to hit spacebar. Then we select that we want to install OpenSSH server. It really easy to access our server via SSH. Here we're about to server lets us install different services. One that we actually do want to check is this Docker. So we scroll down to this, hit spacebar. We will be using Docker to install basically everything on our Minecraft server, but we should be able to skip the rest, so we can just scroll down, hit done, and we'll just let this run for a while because it will take a few minutes to install. We'll come back to it. It says install complete, and we should be ready to go, so we can scroll down to where it says reboot now, hit enter, and then it will tell us to go ahead and remove our flash drive, so we'll pull that out, and then press enter. And then this should reboot back into Ubuntu server, and we should be ready to get things up and running. After a few minutes, our server should boot back up, and at this point we actually don't need a monitor on our server anymore, and we can head back over to our Windows machine. So back over in Windows, we can hit the Windows key and open up PowerShell. And from here, we should be able to type in SSH, and then the user on our server, so for me that's Haven, @ and then that IP address I told you to remember, 192.168.1.138 for me. And if I hit enter, it didn't work because I used commas. All right, if we type in SSH haven at 192.168.1.138, not using commas, using periods, hit enter, it should work, and we should get this message here, and we can type in yes because we do trust this machine. Now we can type in our super secure password, and we should be SSH'd into our Minecraft server. But I'm actually going to switch over to a software called Putty that I prefer to use, or this is actually Solar Putty that I'm logged into it right now. So I'm going to be using this, but you can use whatever SSH client you'd like to use. All right, the first thing we're going to do is run sudo apt get update, type in our password. And what this is going to do is this is going to check all of the repositories to make sure that we have all of the most up-to-date software. And then if we want to be safe, we can type in sudo or sudo, it doesn't matter, apt get upgrade. Hit Y for yes. And this will actually update any software that is out of date. Once that's done, I'm going to type in clear just to clean up our console. And we want to check a few things. The first thing we want to check is that Docker is actually running properly. So we can type in Docker version. So that means Docker is properly installed. Now if we try Docker PS, okay, yeah, so this is an issue. We're going to be using Docker a lot here, and it's going to really suck if we have to keep typing in sudo or sudo every time we run a Docker command. So we need to add our Haven user, or whatever your user is, to the Docker group so that they can run Docker commands without having to use the sudo or sudo command every time. So we want to add our user to a Docker group so that it can properly use Docker. So let's do sudo group add Docker to create our Docker group if it doesn't exist. And then now we can run sudo gpasswd, then -a, then our user Haven, and then our group Docker, and hit enter. And now if we type Docker PS, oh, it's still not going to work, but if we exit out of our SSH client and then rejoin and try the same thing, it still doesn't work. Okay, so I actually had to restart the server for some reason, which was pretty easy. You can just hit the power button to restart it, or you could actually type in sudo reboot and then hit enter, and that would reboot the server for you. So now we can type in Docker PS, and this will list all of our containers, which we don't have any, and we don't get that warning that we don't have permissions. So that is good. So you might be asking, what is Docker and why are we using it? Well, Docker lets us run containerized applications, which basically means we can run our Minecraft server as this little self-contained container. I'm not going to go into way too much of what Docker is, but it's going to make this really easy to set up our Minecraft server, as well as other services that we might need. Now, if you're not super familiar with Linux, don't worry too much. I'll try to explain the commands as I go, but if you follow along, you should be fine without necessarily understanding everything. But I'm just going to type in ls, and this is going to list all the files in our home directory that we're in right now, which we have this snap folder, but nothing else. We want to make a config folder for our Minecraft server, and so to do that, we can type in mkdir for make directory, and then we're going to call this mc docker. Hit enter. And then now if we hit ls again, we should see we have this mc docker folder. And so we'll use that here in a bit, but that's where all of our configuration for our Minecraft server is going to live. Next, we're going to go ahead and open up a web browser, and we're going to Google paper Minecraft Docker. And then right here, marktv/Minecraft paper MC server. We want to find this on Docker Hub. I'll leave a link to the description to get here as well. Now, what we want to do here is we'll copy this command, and then we'll open up a text edit window or a notepad window, and we're going to paste this command here. Now, this is going to be our Docker run command, but we're going to make a few tweaks. So first of all, we're going to get rid of this remove or this rm command. We'll leave name MC server. That's great. Under this here where it says memory size, I have 8 gigs of RAM and I want to allocate 6 of it to our server because we're not really doing anything else with our machine. So I'm going to do 6 gigs. Right here where it says -v, we want to select all of this up to this colon, delete it, and then we're going to type /home, then / our username Haven, and then /mc-docker. Now this is actually the location of the directory. If we go back to our SSH and we type in cd, so that means change directory to /home/haven, you'll see that puts us back in our home folder we were in. And if we hit ls, we can see our MC Docker folder. And so this right here is the path to that config folder we made. And that's going to bind it to a config folder within our container. So when we make changes to our config in this folder, our container can see that. Now we're going to add a few more things here. So first of all, we're going to add what's called a restart policy. So we can type in 2 dashes, restart equals, and then we're going to write unless dash stopped. What this means is that if our server accidentally crashes or when we reboot the machine, it'll automatically start up unless we manually stop it. I also want to add in this -d. Oh, I forgot to put these backslashes here. That'll mess up our command. So you want to have a backslash after each line. But I want to do a -d, and then I also want to do a -it. Don't worry about what these mean. To be honest, I don't entirely understand, but it will help us manage our server later on. And then last down here where it says latest, we're just going to replace this with 1.18. And if we go back to this Docker Hub page here, we can go up to tags, and you can see the different releases of this, and we're going to use this 1.18 tag rather than latest. Because if we use latest and our server restarts and there's a new image up, it might pull a different version of the Paper Minecraft server, and we just want to leave it on this 1.18, that way it's consistent. All right, so this command should be good to go, so we can copy this whole thing. So Command C, head back into our SSH, and we're going to right-click to paste it, and then hit enter, and we're going to hope for the best. We should get this unable to find image locally, which means it's going to download it from Docker Hub, and then here in a second, we should have a working Minecraft server. All right, so after that's done, we can type in docker logs and the name of our Docker container, which is MC server. And if we hit enter, we should see all of this info coming from our log, and everything looks good. So now we can actually open up Minecraft. And now because our server is running 1.18.1 and not the most recent version, which at the time of this video is 1.18.2, we will have to do a custom install. So you can go up here to installations, and then you could create a new install using the version we need, which is 1.18.1, but I already have that set up. It's set up here as server, so we can go to play. Okay, and so now we have Minecraft open, as well as our SSH terminal over here. So we can go to multiplayer, add server, and I'm going to call this local Minecraft, and we're just going to put in 192.168. Whatever it is for you. For me, it's 1.138, and I'm going to hit done. And if all goes well, we should have this right here. So if I open up our server,
avem tot arme, mașini, ce vreți voi. Am pe server. O să fie
we are in
Minecraft
Minecraft server running on a 1.2. Isn't that cool?
Dacă nu mă trebuie
usages right now. So as we're running around, nothing too bad right now. Now the biggest problem with our server currently is that we can't actually access it from the internet. We're only able to access it on our local network. It doesn't really help if you're wanting to play with friends who don't live in your house. So we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, if we go back to our browser, we need to figure out what our router is so we can set up some port forwarding and also reserve an address with DHCP. So I know that my router address is 192.168.1.1, but you'll have to figure out what yours is. Once you do though, you can navigate to it, and you'll have some kind of login. If you've never logged into this before, there's a good chance this info is actually on your router, but once again, you'll have to figure that out on your own. Now your router is going to look quite a bit different than mine does, but essentially you're going to want to navigate to some section where it says DHCP, and then you're going to look for a client list. And here we can see that where it says compact MC, we have my computer with our 192.168.1.138 IP address. And there should be some kind of option to reserve or save this IP address. That way that IP address doesn't get given to a different computer if our Minecraft server is off for a while. So I'm just going to hit this little save here. And then now if I head to address reservation on my router, down here at the bottom we see our compact Minecraft server, and that DHCP IP address has been reserved, so it won't change. Next, we need to look for a section that says something about NAT or port forwarding. So for me, it's under transmission, NAT, and then for me, it's listed as virtual servers, but essentially you just want to find whatever section it is for your router that lets you configure port forwarding. If you're not sure, you can probably Google the model of your router and port forwarding and find someone who can explain it. But I'm going to click Add, and then we're going to call this Minecraft server or MC server. Interface is WAN. External port should be 25565. Internal port should be 25565. And then our internal server IP is going to be our 192.168.1.138. And then we can hit OK. So now if anyone goes to our IP address on port 25565, that should get forwarded to our Minecraft server. But we have a big issue that no one really knows what our IP address is. And if you're like most people where you have a dynamically assigned IP, your home IP address could change every now and then. So to fix this, we're going to head to a website called duckdns.org and create an account. Now once you're signed in, you should land on a page that looks something like this. Now what DuckDNS is a dynamic DNS service. So essentially you can set up a subdomain or a URL with them, and whenever your IP address changes, this new URL will always make sure it forwards to the correct IP address. So first we're going to set up a subdomain. So here I'm just going to type in test MC and we'll hit add domain. Okay, domain is already taken. No worries, I'm going to type in haven test MC. Hit add domain. All right. So now we should have a few things. We have this IP address here that I'm going to have hidden, which should be your current IP address. And we also have this token, which is really important. What we can do is we can set up another Docker container that whenever our IP address changes, it'll send information to the DuckDNS service to change our IP address so that when anyone goes to haventestmc.duckdns.org, it'll resolve to our IP address and people can connect to our server. So to do this, we're going to go to linuxserver.io, go to the docs, and then scroll down until you find Linux server /duckdns. This is another Docker container that runs the DuckDNS client that will let DuckDNS know anytime our IP address changes. So we can scroll down here to where it says Docker CLI, and we'll copy this entire thing and paste it into our notes here. And we're going to make a few changes once again. So we're going to leave Docker run -d the same, name DuckDNS is great. We can leave this exactly the same because our user should be 1000. For time zone, I'm just going to set it up to my time zone, which is America-Chicago. For subdomains, we want to get rid of these and just put in our haven test MC. Under token, this is where we need to copy our token that's up here on DuckDNS, and then we will just paste it here. Clean that up a little bit. Log file, we'll keep that as false. You could set this up to log to something on your server, but we're just going to leave that as false. Now here where it says volume or -v, and then it has path to app data, we actually need to set up another config folder on our server. So we can head back to SSH, hit Control-C to get out of this top view here. We'll clear things up, and then we're going to navigate, so CD or change directory, and then we can actually put a little tilde here, which is the same thing as typing /home/ the name of our user. So we can do that, or we can do CD tilde. All right, so we're back in our home folder. So if we hit ls to list, we can see we have our MC Docker. Oh, while we're here, actually, let's go ls MC Docker. And then now in what was an empty directory, we have all of this stuff for our server, but we'll come back to this later. So clear again. Now we're going to make another directory, so mk dir, and we're going to call this duckdns-docker. You can call this whatever you want, but I like this. So now if we hit ls again, we can see we have our DuckDNS Docker as well as our Minecraft Docker. Back in our text editor, we can change this path before the colon to /home/haven slash duck DNS dash docker. And this will be the same thing as it was with our Minecraft Docker container, and basically just be a configuration folder that we can access. And we'll leave this restart unless stopped as well. And now we can just copy this entire command, come in here, right click to paste, hit enter to run, and this will install the Docker container as well, just like it did our Minecraft server. Once it's done, we should be able to type docker logs duck DNS, and everything looks good. So we can type clear again. And now if everything is set up properly, when someone on Minecraft, we'll delete this server. When someone goes to add a server on Minecraft, and we will call this Haven server. If they go to haven test mc.duckdns.org, this should get routed to our IP address, and because Minecraft uses the port 25565, that request should get forwarded to our Minecraft server on port 25565, and everything should work. So let's hit done and see if wow, it worked. It's like magic. So now, if we access this, we're not accessing this on our local network, we're actually accessing this over the internet. Just to test that, we can actually go back to our SSH server, and if we go to docker logs mc server, we'll actually see that earlier where I joined the game, it was from my local IP address, but now that I'm joining the game, it's from my home's IP address over the internet. It's crazy. So now we technically do have a working Minecraft server that anyone with our URL, our haventestmc.duckdns.org, they can join. Now, to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about Minecraft servers. I've never actually ran one myself, so this is all very new to me. But I know many people like to run things like plugins, so I'm actually going to show you how you can install one of the most common plugins, Essentials X. So to do this, we're going to go back into our web browser, and we're just going to search for it. If we go to the website, you can find this download link here, and we're just going to right-click that and hit copy link address. Then back in our server, we can clear things up, and we're going to navigate, so cd, to our Minecraft Docker directory. And if we hit ls, we can see all these folders again, and there should be a folder called plugins. So if we change directories to that, and then now that we're in our plugins folder, we can type in sudo wget, and then we're going to paste in that link for the download and hit enter. And then now if we type in ls, we should have this essentials x dash blah 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 .jar, and that's what we want. So now we actually need to restart our server, and an easy way to do that is to type in docker stop mc server. Then after a few seconds we can type in docker start mc server, and we can type in docker logs mc server again. And after a few minutes, we should be able to see that this Essentials plugin has actually been loaded in. And so if we go back to Minecraft, we hop back in this server. I have joined the game now. And let's just try some commands. So if I do this, I can't do a fly command, probably because I'm not OP. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So to use server commands not within the game, you can type docker attach mc server, and then now if we type a question mark, for example, with our Essentials X plugin, we can see all these commands we can use. I'm going to say op and then my username, and so now if I go back to Minecraft, I should have been made a server operator, and I should be able to type fly my username enable, and look at that. Isn't that cool? So to get out of the Minecraft, we can hold down Control and then PQ, and that'll get us out safely without accidentally closing the server. So if we hit docker PS, for example, we can still see that our DuckDNS as well as our Minecraft servers are both up and running. So anytime you want to use server commands, you can just hit docker attach mc server, and then now you should have the ability to use any of these commands that I don't completely understand, because like I said, I've never run a Minecraft server, but you have all of these here you can use, or I guess if you are an OP, you can use them from in the game. After getting everything set up, I invited a friend to join and make sure that everything was working well. With just the two of us, things were going really smoothly.
Are you ready for a small stress test?
Sure, yeah. What does that look like? Oh god.
When quickly flying around the world, it was obvious that the server was taking a while to render a lot of chunks all at once,
Hi,
and it was even
sa
possible
live
to fly past what had been rendered.